and welcome to Feels Like Magic, the podcast where you will get the grounded self-development wisdom you might need to feel amazing about the person you authentically are. I'm Jo, a transformational coach, speaker, and author, and for decades I was so stuck in self-criticism that I never thought I would feel good about being me. Now I inhabit a new reality, one where I care way less about what other people think. I'm willing to show up as the person that I am, and I deepen into self-love and acceptance every single day. Honestly, it feels like magic. Each week, I'll share scientifically proven tools, things I've learned from the world's best coaches, and personal stories I know you'll relate to. Ready? Let's dive in. Hey, beautiful. Oh my goodness. What a week. I don't know about you, but I am feeling some really intense energy. It's like everything is amplified right now. So if you're in anxiety or you're in frustration or you're in anger or you're in disappointment or you're in sadness, I just really want you to know how natural and normal that is. And, we push our feelings away so much, but this is our human experience. And one of the most freeing things is to be like, take a breath. This is my life. I'm here. This is how I feel right now. And not try and shove it down or push it away. And also not tell a story about what it means for us, what it means for us as humans. We're just having an experience. We're having an energetic experience. Emotions are meant to move through us. So I'm just sending you a lot of love, and I have a couple of little treats at the moment that might be supportive for you. So one thing that you can go and grab right now is a journaling, a meditation bundle on self-love. It's Valentine's week if you're listening to this live. And in the chat that you're about to dive into, we talk about self-love and we talk about that being the foundation. But I think that even I can sometimes feel so lost with, how do I deepen into this more? How do I create more self-love? How do I come back? Because the truth is, it's a practice. It's not a one and done. It's like being in a relationship with someone else, right? Like we have to continually come back, continually give ourselves love, continue to really be in the space of kind of feeling into ourselves and our hearts and holding ourselves. So I made a journaling practice that I do. There's a prompt book which has got lots of really lovely prompts to dive deep into. And I absolutely know that they will shift your mood, because that's what they do for me. And then there's also a beautiful meditation, and it's on sale. It'll be linked in the show notes. So you can go and grab that bundle and really help yourself to access this level of self-love, and just be with yourself wherever you're at with it, without any shame or any judgment, and really honor your intention to want to love yourself more no matter what. And then the other thing, my love, is that I'm going to be hosting a beautiful masterclass. So Kat and I today talk a lot about those moments where you're having a moment and you're like, this isn't what I want life to be forever. Like, I want to choose something else. So I'm running a masterclass called What If I Can, which is all about how we can move from fear, because fear will be very present when you're thinking about a big change in your life. And I'm specifically thinking about something like leaving a career, leaving a 9 to 5, but it might be something totally different for you. And we can get so stuck in fear that we never actually take the step that we know underneath is going to free us. So I'm going to talk in this masterclass about how we can actually take the fear that feels so big and so scary and so present and so real, and we can work with it and actually turn it into a little bit of a superpower and start to actually take the action that we've been thinking about for so long. So I hope that you'll come along for that. Again, it's going to be linked in the notes. I just can't wait to share some of this magic with you. And then finally, I just want to introduce today's episode. So I have a beautiful chat today. I'm going to start to bring some guests on, people who have come into my world and they have just like a sprinkle of magic. There's something in the work they do which is very magical, but also just in their stories. I love people's stories. It's one of the reasons I love being a coach. Like, I love to know how things have played out for people in their lives and what has happened. So in this episode, I speak to Cat Googe, who was a teacher like me, and now she is like a laughter yoga joy queen. And she is on a mission to kind of bring people more into joy. And joy is something that I personally have found triggering at times. I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll see things online or whatever, and it'll all feel too joyful. And this is something that I share in the episode, how I really had a thing about joy feeling quite unsafe for me. And I think it can be something where, we feel like if we go fully into it, that something's going to take it away because we've had that experience in our life, right? We had it in our childhood. Everything goes back to inner child, where something was so joyful and then all of a sudden it wasn't. And that's the nature of being a human. So I'm excited to share this conversation. It's a longer episode, so it's a beautiful one for you if you're driving or you just have a little more time. But there's some really beautiful wisdom in here, and there are some really gorgeous things that I think that you'll take away from it. So enjoy the conversation. I would love to know what lands, what feels like it's important for you at this point, this season in your life. And I will see you very soon. Bye. Okay. All right, beautiful humans. So I'm here today with Cat Googe, who I'm so excited to bring her into this world for you. She is the professed joy queen. Everything about her is so joyful. Her social media, the way that she just oozes like this gorgeousness of joy and happiness. And like, I feel this beautiful like spirit, this aliveness that I think that so many of us kind of struggle with. Like, we struggle to find it in the day to day of life. We really struggle to like bring our lives alive. And I know that you do many different things. So you do laughter yoga, which I'm so interested in, and Reiki and NLP. So we're going to dive into the magic of the work that you do so that people can get to know you a little and get to know your work and really be inspired to find more joy every day for themselves. So do you want to introduce yourself or say anything further?
Well, Joe, I mean, I'm like literally, I was listening to your words. I was like, oh, absorb, receive, receive. It's so wonderful to just receive, isn't it? And I think it's
Yeah.
something that, like like I talk a lot about building different muscles, joy muscles and gratitude muscles and all the things, but actually the receiving muscles of like, listen to how someone is reflecting back to you what they feel from you. It's like it's a really beautiful thing. So I was just drinking that up, saying, "Thank you, beautiful, amazing intro." So yeah, so I am Kat, and I'm really delighted to be on your podcast, my darling. I'm also known as the Joy Queen, and my big kind of well, I have a big mission of global joy. So so no small thing. And my vision really is to really teach people to get intentional about joy, like in every single day of their lives, instead of waiting for it to happen. Really, in a nutshell, that is my wish and desire for people that I get to have conversations with, get to work with, whether it's 5 minutes or like 5 years, it doesn't really matter. It's like, that's my vision, that we get to like feel joy more easily and not have it as a destination.
I love that so much. And I want to touch on a couple of things. First of all, the receiving piece is so huge. I work a lot with somatics in the body, and one of the most beautiful things is to give people the experience of receiving in their bodies, like truly being with another person. We don't we don't do it. We just deflect. It's a little like Teflon. It's like, yeah. So I'm so
Mm.
glad that you could model that and just be like, yes, I'm drinking this in because that's what we need. And particularly, I think for women, we're so trained if someone gives us a compliment to be like, oh yeah, but it's not really like it's not really my thing, or this dress is 5 years old, or we go straight
Yes.
away to deflection, right?
Yeah, this old
Um,
thing, you know. Oh,
yes,
it's nothing different, or like, or it's people just do it as a default almost, don't they?
yes, absolutely. And I love like the actual, because we're on video, though everyone else won't be able to see this. I could literally see it in your body, and it just reminded me of that, the joy of openness and
Mm.
receiving. And I love your mission so much. So tell us a little bit about how you got into this work. How did you get to this space where you and I are on a podcast and we're talking
Yeah.
about like your global joy mission? Tell us a little bit about what brought you here.
Yeah, and I laugh because I kind of think, wow, like it isn't where I was 6 years ago, and I just love how life can take you in lots of different avenues and delight and surprise you, and it's never too late to be delighted and surprised, right? It's like there's always incredible stuff that we don't even know about, right? So being open to be curious and delighted is like a real kind of gateway to joy for me. So I was a primary school teacher for 20 years. So people that have come to my sessions, when I kind of share that, they kind of like they feel that energy, that kind of like that playful, when I speak to someone that's a teacher, they're like, "Oh, you must have been primary." I'm like, "Yes, of course," like
Yeah, I was a secondary teacher. I don't think people
right.
know that, but I was a secondary English
I
teacher.
didn't
You definitely have the primary school vibe.
Yeah, so you just know, right? You just know. It's so funny. But I was a primary school teacher. I ended up being a teacher for like 20 years actually. But 6 years ago, when I was still a teacher, we had this kind of wellness day at my school. And we had loads of different offerings that we could choose to like just, to think about our mental and physical health and wellness. So it was a great thing to do. And I saw this thing called laughter yoga and I was like really curious because I was like, oh, okay. I like laughter. I like yoga. It turns out, it wasn't the yoga that I knew, but I'll explain more as we go on. But it like it piqued my curiosity. It very much spoke to my nature. And honestly, that 60 minutes, it changed my life. It really did. I had a very, very powerful, cathartic experience where I literally was buzzing for the whole weekend of it. Something, it's like it touched something really deeply within. And, I have done a lot of work on myself over the years. And I'm definitely have looked through the world in a really open and glass half full lens, but like for a long time from the work I've chosen to do with myself. So it wasn't that I didn't experience joy and laughter. I just really felt how impactful it could be. And I was like, God, this could change people's lives. This could be the difference from like existing to like really living and stepping into your greatness and just like being fully yourself because that's how I felt. I just was yay, she's here, and it like it was a real kind of gave me a little goosey rush saying that actually because yeah, like my body's saying to me, yeah, that was the thing that then set all these things in motion to like where I am now. Like there's a lot of stuff that happened in between, but like that was the starting point. And, I think, gosh, like it's crazy to think what's happened over those 6 years, really, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. From being like at a school wellness day to now you've like taught at Glastonbury and you like
I,
done things at Happy Place and just all of the magic that has unfolded. And I so relate to, we try and control things so much in life. And we try and like look for the thing and find our purpose and all of the stuff like that really push energy.
Mm,
And it's actually just like like coaching found me, like
right.
I didn't find it. And there's so many people that I've seen this happen to where it's just like there's been a moment where it's like this is the thing, or this is the path, or this is the way now. And it's so magical to think that like at any moment your life can really change, even when you are just going about like a general day at school, you know, if you're a teacher.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I love what you say about coaching finding you. I say that with laughter yoga. I say that with Reiki. Like it just the things that were meant for me, they just presented themselves after like looking in many different ways of like I knew I wanted to lead teaching. I knew that I was here for something different.
Mhm.
I couldn't feel what it was. I trained in different modalities. I tried to bring wellness into schools, but there just always seemed to be barriers. And this was like, here's the thing. And then I kind of went, oh, what do I do with the thing? And how do I? And I was like, and you don't necessarily know, right? But I just went, just going to follow. I'm just going to follow. I don't know the steps. I've got a really big vision and goal. That was in 19, not 19, 20.
Going back a few years.
Gone back into the wrong era. That was in 2019. That's where the 19 came from. And in 2020, so literally a year later, I was at an event and I wrote in my journal, we were like goal setting. And I was like, okay, like what would feel amazing? I was like, well, it'd feel amazing if I take laughter yoga to Glastonbury in the next 5 years. So that was my 2025 goal. And of course, I was there,
Wow.
last year in June 2024. And I was like, so like this stuff, like people talk a lot about like write down and speak things into existence. Like I have so much evidence of that,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah,
It's yeah.
absolutely. And I think I started my journey in journaling. And I think that the writing things down, people talk about how words are spells.
Mm,
And the piece that I suppose I work with people on is when they write something down, but they don't underneath believe that they're worthy and deserving of it. So they keep sabotaging or they keep getting into
yeah.
those patterns. But it doesn't mean that the process itself isn't so powerful. And when you think about, having that moment where you wrote that down and you were just like from a sheer place of it sounds like vision and really importantly, like the impact on other
Mm,
people. It's that piece
yeah.
that we lose, I think, as humans with our egos. we
Yeah.
forget we forget about the actual impact on the people that we're trying to serve.
Yeah.
And
And we just get so hung up on the steps, right? Because I didn't write that down going, oh, and this is how I get to do it. I literally had no clue. I was still teaching. I didn't leave teaching until 2021. So even though I had this big hit and download of like, here's the thing, I still dance with the do I leave, do I not? Because I was approaching 50 and I was like, oh gosh. And then the big, big intuitive hit for me, I was like a year off 50. And I was like, okay, I don't want to die or retire a teacher. And I'm seeing like people leaving this planet too soon. And I was like,
mm,
that's all the shove I need because I'm just going to follow this thing. And I still didn't know the steps, the how, all the things. But I was like, I will like whilst I'm breathing on this planet, I am doing this thing, and I'm not gonna keep putting off what's calling me just because I don't know the formula, because there isn't a formula. The formula really is you have to believe. You have to believe that it's possible, and you have to. The self love piece that for me in my learnings around myself and people I work with, it all starts with that. If you decide to
yes.
love and honor yourself deeply, my word, you can light up the world, you know?
Oh, I love that so much. That's also like been such a key piece of my journey. And I really hope this inspires anyone that's listening to know that, like, if they're in a job that no longer feels aligned. I remember I took a year out of my teaching job, technically, so I still had the safety. We did a little
Yeah.
bit of what you did, where I still had the safety of like, oh, I could go back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I went on a walk with my dog, and it was a couple of months after I was on my sabbatical, which was just
Yeah.
an unpaid year. I mean, and I just said out loud, if I go back to that job, I will slowly wither. Like that,
Mm.
well, that was what it felt like to me. It was just like, I can't choose it. For I know that people will tell me all the practical reasons, but to put those above your own knowing and what is right for your spirit. And just like you say, life is so precious. And I think we're all reminded of that again and again. So to
Yeah.
take that step, your story is so inspiring. And I think as well, because coaching, I think people are kind of like, yeah, this is coaching and it's what it is. But you did something that, not a lot of people know about. And you
Yeah.
were like, this is what I'm going to do. And I think that's so awesome because you just got the hit and you went with it. And so tell us a little bit about laughter yoga for anyone who's never kind of been in a session. What is so magical about it?
Oh, where to start? It's one of those things where when you experience a session, you're like, ah, I've got it. It's so embodied. It's like you leave wherever you were with whatever you were doing, whatever's going on in the head, which is very easy in our humanness to get very caught in here. And it just takes you back into your body. It peels off the layers, and it is like that real kind of, like, I do a lot of, I'm like indicating with my arms on here, obviously,
Yeah.
for people that are listening, but we
Yeah.
do a lot of like our hands, like really open, receiving, celebrating.
Yeah.
It's a real celebration of who you are, because I think so often we forget that. And maybe we're being someone that we should be. And I do that in inverted
Yeah.
commas quite
Yes.
intentionally, right? Because,
Yes.
yeah, that's a whole nother narrative, right? But we're
Yeah.
being an expectation or an old belief or, like a pattern that's been repeating. And it's like, I always just say it's a remembering. It is a real remembering. And we can get so caught up in things just hold us back in life. And like, we only know that we have now. Like, that's all that's guaranteed is right here, right now, this moment.
Mhm.
And past that, we've got no idea. So to have a tool that gets you into that remembering, that self-trust, that self-love, that real deep knowing of who you are, and it feels really like joyful and fun and playful. Like, that is my mission with it. That there's a real kind of education piece for me as an ambassador for it. I feel like I've got a really important role to
Yeah.
share with people that it's much more than just laughter. you know it, like, yes, we're using laughter as the vessel, but much like people, a lot of people know now about breath work. We breathe all the time, right?
Uh-huh.
But when we
Uh-huh.
say breath work, we're like, ah, and we laugh a lot, right? But laughter yoga
Yeah.
is like that. It's like, ah, it's that real kind of like, oh, you
I
know
love that.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's the piece about what you were showing me where you're really open in the body and you have your arms out wide. That sits so well with me because I work a lot with somatics. And
Right.
what we do as humans is we armor up and we collapse in. We hold all of the stuff that people have told us about why we're not good enough and all of the things in our life, and we store them in the body. And so I think any opportunity to open up somatically and really be in that zone of celebration is such a signal to your subconscious and your nervous system that you're okay and that it's safe to experience joy. And I think that is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And for me, I know in the past, I'd be really interested to know if you've ever encountered anyone like this, or if I'm like a little unicorn. I don't think I am. I think that there are other people that think like this too. But I used to find that I would shut joy down. And
Right.
I came to a bit of a realization. I had epilepsy when I was a child, and there may have been a link between the behavior that I was going through and like it physically not feeling that safe in my body to experience a heightened state of joy.
Right.
And I think that it's something, we all want to feel happy. We all want to feel happy and we all want to feel good. But I think that sometimes it can feel hard to access that. And it sounds like laughter yoga is a quick and like beautiful way to get in and to really show the body that it's safe.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm really glad you mentioned that because there is definitely, that vulnerability with joy, right? So
Mhm.
people can
Mhm.
feel like, is it safe for me to feel joy? Because I remember when I felt this blissful, joyful, da, 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 and then this happened,
Yes.
right? So we
Yes.
step back or we like limit, because
Mhm.
it hits that kind of warning system of like, oh, it's not safe for me to feel all these things. So I totally get that and I speak about that quite a lot. And it just for me, what it goes back to is that thing of like we have a finite time. So whilst something may stretch us a little bit and make
Mhm.
us feel maybe a bit emotionally vulnerable, I know I hold a really safe and loving space. So
Mhm.
in my spaces, like people do feel safe to feel fully themselves. So even if through the laughter experience some tears may come, right? Such a beautiful release because then that layer, like it's just gone away a little bit. And then there's that more openness to like the gateway to joy, And it's yeah, it's I'm really aware of how it can make people feel differently. But my invitation always is, like just get curious, like trust
Mm.
yourself, and like anything, when we start something new, it can feel like a bit much, maybe a bit exposing, but with repetition, we like our body builds trust with it because it goes, oh, this is what I gain. So when I kind of think of like when I started laughter yoga 6 years ago, I can think about delivering an exercise to my membership and I get a joy hit because my body has learned that this amazing tool, like it's my pathway to feeling more joy. So yeah, I always I invite people to just trust themselves, to trust the space they're in and like just be open and curious
Yes.
about what it can deliver. I have seen people like there's just been the most amazing things that have happened within the sessions. I'm a Reiki practitioner too. So, of course, then
Yes.
like Reiki comes into everything when you train in Reiki.
Mhm.
I've had people say to me, I felt a childhood wound like leave my body. And I'm like, wow, like I remember someone at festival last year, she came up, she went, oh, my daughter, her third eye activated. And she had this
Wow.
really, really beautiful experience of it opening. And her daughter was about 10, I think, and like there's so many things where I then will, and there'll probably be a ton of people that don't have the conversations right, but still have had
Yeah,
that
of course.
incredible
Absolutely.
experience. But I
Yeah.
I've decided that, like, nothing will amaze me about it anymore because it just kept on amazing me, and I was like, "I don't like, I don't need any more evidence of its power, I just see it." In fact, and the thing is, in a session, you can even on Zoom, right? This is
Mhm.
what I think is so wonderful about it is obviously I do in-person stuff, so for events and festivals, but I host a lot of stuff on Zoom and you can see the physiology change and you're like, what an amazing thing to give yourself because the people that are in it, they are doing it. They are choosing to feel what they're feeling from it, to activate themselves, to bring themselves to this like heightened, joyful state. And I'm like, what a thing of beauty, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And I love what you're talking about in terms of repetition,
Mm,
because what we repeat becomes our embodied experience. And so many of us just like the default, 96% of our behavior is subconscious. So we just go to the default pattern, like the wounded pattern of, I don't really believe in myself. I don't really love myself. And I'm going to hold that in my body. And when we can start to work with that kind of stuff and these practices that also bring the body into joyful states, it's like, oh, it is safe. Because I think I talk a lot about this. We think it's unsafe on a biological subconscious level to be this vulnerable and to experience this much joy because we had a different experience at some point in our life. But safety is
mm,
not fulfillment. Safety is safety. And it's actually, I don't even call it safety, because to live a life where you're suppressing yourself and you're in that state all the time just means that you're not fulfilled and you're not really alive. And so I love how this practice can really help people to come into a different state in the body and really
mm.
access that in terms of the physiology. And I think combined with belief work and all of the things that you're touching on as well, it's so powerful to have that. And I'm really interested in, you mentioned that your self-love practice was very important to you and that it's really at the foundation. What does it look like for you, or what does it mean to you to have that kind of self-love? Has that been a journey? Is it something that you go to every day? How does it kind of
Yeah. So essentially with me and my beliefs around loving ourselves and choosing ourselves stems from like way back when I just didn't feel worthy and I didn't love myself and I didn't choose myself. My parents had had a really acrimonious divorce when I was 15, and then my mum became a drinker. And unfortunately, when, people make choices like that, they can change how they are. And so I was given a lot of evidence that I wasn't worthy, I wasn't good enough. I was often called the black sheep of the family and all these things to
Mhm.
chip away at me. And for a
Yeah.
time, for a number of years, probably about a decade, so from 15 to about 25, like I believed that because
Mhm.
it was coming from a caregiver and all the
Yes.
things,
Yeah.
So, but I look at her with so much love, for how she journeyed through that. But when I was about 25, I went off to Australia traveling. I did Asia, went to Australia, and when I hit Sydney, there was this like weekend self-development thing, and I just knew nothing about that. I was like 25, I'd been through uni. I'd like done a lot of bumming around, really, ski season. I didn't really know who I was, what I was doing. I was quite confused. My mum had done a runner. She'd been made bankrupt. She'd done a runner from the country, gone off to Australia, and so, like, it'd been quite tumultuous. And
Mhm.
so in Sydney, I signed up to this weekend program, and that absolutely changed my life because
Wow.
I realized in that weekend who I was being was Kat, whose mum's an alcoholic, and we need to feel sorry for Kat because her life's been really sad, right? And if anyone's listening that has journeyed or is journeying through that, I have so much love and compassion for anyone that goes, oh shit, that's me. Because I also know I won't be alone in that story, and you can replace alcoholic mum with like another scenario, right? But the
Oh, 100%. It's
yeah,
it's the
so like
it's the
yeah,
wounds, yeah,
yeah,
that we
any kind
carry.
of big wound in
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
15 to like their key years, aren't they?
Yes,
Where
we're
we
still developing the
yeah,
brain. The brain
massively. Yes,
doesn't
brain stops at
yeah.
25, right? So my
Yeah,
patterns in
exactly.
my brain were like I was and not surprisingly, my boyfriends had been pretty rubbish, and they would, have certain behaviors that were very similar and all this thing. So like I say, like so much love for anyone that has been in that scenario. I've lived it. It's not an easy thing. However, right, what was really highlighted to me over that 3 days was I had a choice. So I could continue being poor Cat, who has got like a difficult relationship with her mum, and her mum like says these things, and she's a drinker, and that's who she meets. Like every time people meet her, it's like, oh, have you heard about da, 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 da. Or I choose a different way. And I just chose a different way. I just was like, okay, if we like there's all these different cat paths, right? And
Uh-huh.
this path, like that is not going to bring me joy. It's not going to bring the people around me joy. And I'm just going to be stuck in this loop and probably attracting the wrong men and having, like not the life that I really believe I'm here for. So, what am I now? 53 this year, that like that decision all that time ago, what I decided was validation comes from me, no one else. And I choose myself, and I'm going to choose myself again, and I'm going to choose myself again, and I'm going to choose myself again. And I can't control what's happening around me. And whilst I don't love this situation, and if I could choose that differently, that would be great. But I can't. All these things I can't control, but I can control me. I can control the choices I make. I can control how I see myself, you know? And if I hadn't
Absolutely.
made that decision then, like maybe something would have come up later too, but like that decision then absolutely is why this cat is here standing on stages talking about joy, talking about making the most of your dance on this planet. Because, like, at 25, I decided that was going to be my story instead. And I was going to meet that story with love and acceptance and forgiveness for me, for everyone involved. And just look at myself for
Wow.
my self validation. I think is really, really key. And I see women struggle with it a lot, outsourcing,
100%.
outsourcing, outsourcing. And
Yeah.
a really key thing with people I speak to, that I work with, or in any kind of scenario, I'm like the validation has to come from you. You have to see yourself for all your worthiness. It's so
One
important.
100%. And I think we're so in the pattern of and the programming of outsourcing it to other people, whether it be men or colleagues or strangers on the internet or people that we went to high school with. And I absolutely loved hearing about that moment for you
Mm,
because I do think there is a moment where it's like, no more. I definitely had that moment too, where it's like, I cannot go on like this. Or if I do go on like this is what happens. Is that what I
mm.
choose? And I think at 25, I definitely wasn't there at 25. So, I mean, it's such a beautiful age to have made that decision for yourself. And I think so many people will relate to, like you say, we can replace anything about the type of parents or the type of school or but it's at its core, it's something happened that made us believe we weren't worthy, that made us
Yeah.
believe that we weren't good enough. And we can continue to believe that, or we can believe something different. So I'm so happy I asked that question
Yeah, and
because
it's really interesting
wow.
because a lot of people don't know that story, because I decided not to be the story. That's the beginning of the journey. And I think, life is like this. There were many other things that needed to happen along the way. But what I came back to was being the creator of my own self-worth, and it not being about someone else. And if it went wonky, because life does, this is not about perfection. This is about real, raw humanness,
Yes.
right? We're all
Yes.
human. And actually, we the more we really allow our humanness, and the more open we are about our humanness, actually, like the easier it gets to navigate our humanness. So it's like, if it goes a bit wonky, and it didn't, like at 25, I went epiphany. Oh, everything's like, it
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
many other kind of things to
Yeah.
navigate and dance around, shall we say. But
Yeah, and
Coming back
sometimes you feel
to,
like you're going backwards and you're
yeah,
like, oh, I've gone back there. Okay, yeah, yeah. But it's the coming forward again, right? And it sounds
yeah,
like you've been really committed to that as a path.
yeah. My
Yeah.
my big foundation for anybody that might be listening that like really feels the struggle. It's so hard when you're in the struggle, and I have so much
Mm.
empathy for anyone feeling that, and love and compassion. But start with self love. There's going to be many people saying many different things, but for me, this is in my, obviously this is my thoughts and beliefs, but in my learning with myself, your foundation, there's many bricks to us, right? Yeah, many different things to help us create, but the absolute like bedrock for me, like it starts with love, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we can neglect it and we can kind of put it to one side. But whenever I do that personally, I'm like, oh no, I need to go back here and I need to do my practices and I need to be in my body. And I need, like, all of that is the essential stuff to
Mm,
hold everything else up, but also so that we are so present in our lives, like, so we can be fully alive and in them instead of going back into old negative thought patterns that aren't truly what we've chosen. It's just a default that we end up going back to. So I
yeah.
love this. So I would love for you to touch on, if somebody is sitting at home and they're thinking, I really want to experience more joy. Like, I want to experience more joy. I want to experience, like, I love the sound of laughter yoga. Like, but I don't know if I can get to a class or whatever. What are, like, the maybe like the top 5 things, 3 to 5 things that you would suggest somebody does right now to create more joy in their life?
Right, yeah. Oh, there's so much I could say to that. So I'm going to think about the really key things. So, like one simple thing as a starting point, gratitude and joy, they dance together, right? The more
Mm.
grateful we feel, the more joy we feel, and it just keeps building, building, building. So, like a really simple way of building your joy muscle is build your gratitude muscle. And I appreciate when life's feeling a little bit stretchy, that can feel a challenge, but it can be super simple as I'm grateful for my cozy bed that's been gorgeous to sleep in tonight. It doesn't have to be. I think as humans we can overcomplicate, and it's got to be a great thing that we're grateful for. No, I'm grateful for my body. I'm grateful for my legs. I'm grateful for the air I breathe. I'm grateful for the sunshine. I'm grateful for the green grass because it makes me smile. It doesn't matter. We can say it out loud, we can write it down. Even if you just walk around and you're looking at something, I'm grateful for whatever that thing is you've just seen. So, a gratitude practice is a really, really good way of building that muscle because it just helps you look at the world through a slightly different lens, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
100%. And I think you can even be grateful for, I always talk about how with gratitude, so I see a lot of people kind of want to bypass their emotions and just get to gratitude. And I'm like, no, they can both be here. So you can be feeling
mm,
deeply sad. You can be like, I'm so sad. I'm heartbroken, but the sky looks pretty.
yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
That kind of thing. It's like a both and. It doesn't need to be a battle
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
between either
Yeah.
or. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really important because in my work, it is not about bypassing the feels. It is not
Yeah.
about feeling the feels. In fact, it really is about feeling all the feels. And the more that we just let them come out, like the people that come to my sessions and my membership, I'm always like, just bring whatever it is, whoever you are, and we will work it through. And you will, it's not about dancing around rainbows and unicorns. It really is about like, how are you feeling? Okay, great. Like, how
Mm.
can we let that go? So it's really important to acknowledge the feelings, and honestly, that again is like part of the gateway to joy. Another really powerful and simple, because I think simple things are like incredible. We can undervalue simple things. They are not simplistic. People might go, oh,
Mhm.
gratitude. Honestly, it is, there's like huge studies on gratitude and joy. Like it's
Mhm.
massive. So keeping things simple is great for us as humans because we're all busy, but it's really powerful. So I talk a lot about pockets of joy. And I always invite people to look for pockets of joy in every day. But again, like quite often as humans, we might like want it to be the really big thing. And that's like I said about joy is not the destination, it's the right here, right now. Well, like my hand cream here brings me joy, this candle here,
Mhm.
like I can smell it from over there without it being lit. It brings me joy. So what's important is like get that joy radar on, like you mentioned blue sky, look at the blue sky, oh, a little pocket of joy, thank you, and this is
Love
different
that.
to gratitude practice. It's got a different energy. It
Yes.
is like, do you see what I mean? It's like it's looking
Yes.
for these moments.
It's present. It's very like from what I'm understanding, it's about the present moment.
Yes,
It's about like this coffee is so nice.
yeah.
This is yeah, a little bit like people would might call it like glimmers. It
Yeah,
reminds me of that.
is it like pockets of joy are just like glimmers,
Yes,
and
yes.
this, like anything that can get us out of our heads and into our bodies. So, like knowing where you can go to put yourself in a better energy. So a lot of
Mhm.
people will talk about how, like getting out in nature really lifts their spirits. So like like be mindful about when you feel like you're having maybe a bit of a kind of emotional crash. It's like, all right, can I go out for a walk, even if it's just for 15 minutes? You know, like,
Yeah.
can I put on a tune that I love
Mhm.
that takes me back to a beautiful memory or takes me back to a week ago? It doesn't matter, but can I put on a tune? And if I can't jump around because I'm not feeling that's available to me because of how I'm feeling, can I just listen
Mm,
to it? And can it maybe make me start to smile?
is special. And dance and movement for me is one of the places that I
Yes.
go.
It really
Yes.
moves us through, doesn't it?
Yes.
And I think like in all of this, like acceptance and allowing is really important because like meet yourself where you are. Like don't expect to go from here to here just like that. Meet yourself where you are and then like you will start to shift the needle, like when we
Yes.
practice laughter yoga, you can shift your energy in honestly a couple of exercises. And that's why I love it so much because that can
Mm,
be in less than 5 minutes. And as
yes.
time pushed and busy as we all feel, like, because like that's, that is the way the world operates these days. It is quite a busy space and we can feel time poor, but like we all do have 5 minutes. And a lot of us
We do.
probably have more than we really might lead ourselves to believe, but we have 5 minutes. And I've had
Mhm.
people coming into my sessions and I like get them to check in with their energy out of a number. And like 10 is like, yay, 0 is like, whoa. And I'm like, however you are is however you are. Do not feel the
Yes.
need to be anything other than who you are and how you are. And they might be on a 2. Okay. And that's a
Yes.
really less than helpful energy to go about their day. Maybe they've got a really important thing to do with work. Maybe they're looking after their kids. A 2 energy is going to make your day feel that bit more challenging. But when we've
Mhm.
done some laughter and they've gone to a 4, I'm like, you've doubled it. That is incredible. So it's not looking about where you're like, it's really important to look at like the work that that person has put in to bring themselves into this much more resourceful state. Doesn't matter
Yes.
that the numbers are 4, right? It's that
Yes.
the person's managed to double. And I'm like, now the rest of your day or what you do next is going to feel that bit easier, you
Yes,
know?
100%. And I think, I definitely at times have been committed to my misery. I talk about it sometimes where I'm like, oh, everything is just hard. And we can go into this kind of spiral and I feel myself do it. And then to just be able to come back to the body and back to present moment and to like put a song on or to access that in that small way, it
Mm.
really does make a huge difference. And I love this message of like, bring all of you. It is like about supporting you to feel good in your life And I think that that is like so helpful for people. And those are really simple, practical tools that anyone can use at any time. And even just like the surrender and acceptance is massive. To
Yeah.
just be like, oh, this is present, this is here, I'm surrendering to it. It's something I work on all the time because we're so conditioned to
Yeah.
kind of be pushing it away.
Yeah,
So it's
push
so
through,
massive.
isn't it? Yeah. And I
Yes,
think if
yes.
all those feel like really hard, like because the breath is part of laughter yoga, it's the
Yes.
laughter exercises with the breath. If all of those don't feel available to you, because life can feel like that, right, at times, and that's okay, then just breathe. That's why I always kind of say to people that we can try all these different things, but laughter can feel a stretch and dancing might feel a stretch, but just breathe. Put your hand on your heart, or maybe if you just give yourself a little squeeze, just giving yourself that little loving cuddle or your hand on your heart and breathe in for 4 and out for 4.
Yes, so
Do it
good.
for a couple of minutes and you will notice a shift, you know?
It's wild how quickly something like that can really bring into a change into your body, even when you
Mm,
feel like you're in a state of really high anxiety. Like it can come
absolutely.
so, so fast. Tell everybody where they can find you and what you're up to right now and how they can get involved in your world.
Right. Thank you, my lovely. So I am on Insta mainly. That's my main hangout at Cat Googe Official, but the links will all be shared. I
Mhm.
have a gorgeous membership called the Inner Joy Circle where we dance, we laugh, and I share Reiki. That's it in a nutshell, but it's actually so much more than that. The way I talk about it and the way the members feel about it, it's a way of life. Basically, it is a way of life. It is really beautiful. So that brings me a lot of joy. I love to host transformational sessions at festivals and events. So I speak and I do workshops at some incredible places. I've got some amazing places lined up. I'm not sure which ones I can share. So if I just like last year, I was at Happy Place. I was at Festival, Mind, Body, Spirit. So, if you know that you're called to those kind of places, like come along and no doubt you will see me there again. But they are such a beautiful space to share something like this, because to do this in a community is really, really powerful. I take my workshops to schools, which is amazing as someone who was in education for a
Yeah.
long time, to see what that can give children and staff. And I think that's what's really
Mhm.
key in it, is amazing. Oh, and I've just launched my first retreat, which feels super exciting. So,
Yeah. So
um, yeah,
exciting.
yeah, it's beautiful stuff. And yeah, if you wanna have a taste of it, like check out my live sessions or come and have a look at my membership,
Yeah.
because like for me, like I said, with the repetition, like intentionality is key.
Mhm. Mhm.
Implementation is where we get the shift.
Yes.
So yeah.
Absolutely. I'm going to link everything so that people can know exactly where to find you. But I also just want to really thank you for bringing your whole self here. You're someone who I can feel brings her whole self into a space. And I think there's so many moments of inspiration and wisdom, and it might be just the reminder that we all need, that joy is just like 5 minutes away, and that we
Mm.
can commit to just these simple things that really bring us into our sense of present moment, body, gratitude, and joy. So thank you so much, Kat, for being here and telling us about
Oh,
the magic of your work.
thank you, my love. It has been an absolute delicious joy to chat to you. It's been gorgeous. Thank you so much, my darling.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for being here and being you. If you're ready to dive deeper on your self-development journey, visit joannebell.org, where you can sign up to get even more magic, access incredible bonuses, and find out more about working with me.